Okay, year 11. So we are moving on to look at the UK weather hazards. So we've looked first of all at what hazards are. We focused on tectonic hazards and then we moved on to atmospheric hazards. And now we're focusing more on extreme weather in the UK. So in relation to where we are within this topic, we're coming to the end. So here we're going to focus on what air masses are, what examples of extreme weather do we have in the UK, and ways to respond to these weather hazards. So let's get started. Okay, so what is extreme weather? Using these images on the board, can I get you to write down a definition for extreme weather and then give examples of extreme weather that you have experienced in England, or just use the images to try and help you. So extreme weather is when the weather event is different from the average or usual weather pattern. So it could be that one random day in January there was a significant amount of rainfall, which is not common for then, or it could be that in spring, when normally you start to get the temperatures increasing, we have a surge of snow, such as the Beast from the East. So what extreme weather events have we experienced in the UK? Well, here are some examples. So using this information on the screen, can I get you to make a spider diagram of all the different extreme weather events that we've experienced in the UK? And you might want to Google some that have happened between 2018 and 2021, because our most recent example is 2018. So see if you can add any more to that. So why do we experience these extreme weather events? Well, the UK is like a roundabout because it's a meeting point of several different types of weather from different directions, and explains why we experience such varied weather from week to week. And these are called air masses. So an air mass is a large body of air which is all the same. So it could be a large chunk of warm air, it might be a large chunk of cold air, or wet air, or dry air. And the reason that the air is different is depending on where it's come from. So if it's come over the oceans, so that would be classed as a maritime air mass, it's going to bring with it moisture, so it's going to be wet. If it comes over continents, that would be called a continental air mass. It's got nowhere to pick up moisture from, so that will bring dry air, so there will be no rain. If it's travelling from the poles or from the Arctic, it's going to bring with it very cold air. And if it's travelling from the tropics, so from the equator, then it's going to be bringing with it very warm air. And you can see here, these are the parts of the UK which experience most commonly these different types of air masses. So they are colour-coded to show you that. So make sure you've written down a definition for an air mass, and make sure you have written down what maritime means. So that travels over the sea, and what continental means. So that travels over the land, so doesn't pick up any moisture. Okay, so what we have here are 5 different air masses, and we need to know the names of these different air masses. So let's go through together. You might want to pause it and have a go first, and then we'll go through it together. So this one here is coming from the poles, so you might want to add a little bit of information around it. So here we have Russia. We've got the Arctic here. We also have the Arctic here. We have the Atlantic Ocean here. And in this direction, you would be looking at Africa. Okay. So if this is travelling over the Arctic, that is why it's called a maritime air mass. And it's going to be bringing with it very cold air. So it would be called the Arctic maritime. Now, if it's travelling over the oceans, it's going to bring wet air. And if it's travelling from a cold region, it's going to bring with it very cold air. So what about this one then? Well, this is coming from Russia, and that is why it's classed as a continental air mass. But it's still travelling from the cold parts of Russia. So this would be classed as your polar continental, which means that the weather here is going to be very cold and dry. So this is the type of weather that brings snow. The type of air mass, that brings snow. And this was the one that was responsible for the beast from the east. Okay, number 3 then. So we have got here the tropical continental. So this is still travelling over land. It's coming from Africa. Okay, which means that it's going to be bringing with it very hot and very dry weather. Number 4, so this is coming from the Arctic, or more commonly the polar regions. So this would be classed as the polar maritime, which means the weather is going to be very cold and very wet. And then we have this final one here, number 5. So this is travelling over the Atlantic Ocean. So the Atlantic Ocean, more so towards the equator. So this would be classed as the continental maritime, which would bring with it very hot and very wet weather. Okay, so make sure please that you have annotated a map similar to this one to show the 5 different air masses, the names of them, where they come from, and the weather that they bring. So how can we respond to these extreme weather hazards? Well, the 4 extreme weather hazards we're going to focus on is drought, storms, floods, and extreme cold. So read through these statements and decide which statement responds to which extreme weather hazard. And you can either do it as a table, you can do it with 4 different colours, or as a spider diagram, as long as it's very clear that you have a key and that you're using either different columns or different colours to represent the different responses. Okay, so here are the answers. So make sure please that you green pen your work before you move on. And that is it for this lesson.